Well, we've all done it, seen just one too many annoying Facebook posts on our feed and reached for the unfriend button. Ouch! A new study out of the University of Colorado, Denver looks at the reasons people unfriend each other as well as how people feel when they realize they've been shut out. Newsflash, not so good. Joining me now is Christopher Sabona, doctoral student in the Computer Science and Information Systems program at CU Denver Business School, who conducted the study. Hi, Christopher. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, hello.
So it sounds so cold, but what is the main reason people unfriend each other?
Well, what this study did was looked at some of the context for why someone might unfriend someone. And so high school friends were the most common type of friend unfriended. And they were most commonly unfriended for political or religious content online. And then I looked at coworkers, so people who work together. And they were decidedly not unfriended for that. They were unfriended more for reasons like doing something in the real world, whatever that might be, doing a misdeed. So those are some of the common reasons why, in different contexts, you might unfriend someone.
I think that's so funny. We don't want to know too much about the personal lives of our coworkers, and our high school friends. Maybe they may know a little bit too much about a stage of our life that we'd rather leave behind, right?
Yeah, well, so a lot of times you might not know what someone is doing in high school, what their religious beliefs are, what the political beliefs are, or they might be ways of shutting it down when you're talking in person, like, oh, I disagree with you. But online, there's a disconnect between how people connect with each other because of the time difference. So things can really ramp up rather quickly online. And so if someone says, I love this candidate or I hate this candidate, they can get a response, and it can be quite troubling, and it can lead to unfriending.
Absolutely. So it's interesting that on your list of the top 5 kinds of people that get unfriended, you don't include the ex that your spouse potentially complains about.
Yeah, so they're not in the top 5. They are there. They're in the in the top 15. But you can imagine that you have most people would have many more friends from high school than many more exes.
Yeah,
right? So
good
these
point.
are the common reasons, not the most likely to be unfriended.
And so how do people respond to being unfriended? We can assume they aren't too happy about it.
Yeah, so it really depends on a number of factors. And so I looked at 4 factors that were important in this topic. And if it was your best friend unfriending you, if it was someone that you were once really close to, then you tended to feel more negatively affected by it. And then there are certain people, it has nothing to do with really the person that they're talking to that is unfriending them. It really has to do with these personal traits. So there are people who look at the number of friends that they have and they try and find out who's unfriended them, and they're really involved in the way the network works. And so what we see here is that those people tend to feel pretty negative about being unfriended.
I was going to say a ton of people may have unfriended me, but I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't know where to check. But Christopher, I want to ask you, is there a threshold for the number of people we can reasonably expect to stay in touch with? I mean, friendships are obviously great, but even the low-maintenance kind on Facebook come with certain expectations.
That's right. So there's some research by somebody named Dunbar, and if you look at Dunbar's number, he says basically you can have about 150 real friends, including acquaintances. Beyond that, it just becomes impossible because of the number of communication channels between you and everyone else. So, and you'll see that actually the Facebook number of friends that people commonly have is around that number, usually a little bit less than about 150. So I think that social science research is important. It implies both in the online world as well as in real life.
All right, Christopher Sabona, I'm going to friend you after this, so you better accept it. Thank you so much for that.